Daf Yomi. Daf Yomi Tractate Sanhedrin, page 45. A. Top of the page, the Gemara is starting with the words Tanu Rabbanon. The Mishnah teaches that a man is stoned naked, but a woman is not stoned naked. With regard to this matter, the sages taught in a Braita. Ha'ish michasinoto perek echad milfanav isha shnei prakim bein lifnea bein milacharea mipnei shikula erva divrei Rabbi Yehuda v'chachamim omrim ha'ish yisoker arom ve'en ha'isha niskeres haruma. The sages taught that they cover man's front with one piece of cloth in the front, and a woman is covered with two pieces of cloth, both in the front and in the back, because all that area is nakedness which may not be viewed. This is the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. But the rabbis say a man is stoned naked, but a woman is not stoned naked. My tamayo derabanan amrakra viragamu also my also. The Gemara asks, what is the reasoning behind the opinion of the rabbis who say that a man is stoned naked but a woman is not? The Gemara answers, the verse states, and all the congregation shall stone him. This was in the case of the blasphemer, I think. Leviticus 24:14, yeah. What does the verse intend to teach when it emphasizes that they stone him? Rabbi Yehuda Omer oso velo chesuso, lo shna ish velo shna isha. If we say that this serves to teach that they stone only him, the man, but not her, meaning women are not punished with stoning, there is a difficulty, as isn't it written explicitly, you shall bring forth that man or that woman and stone them with stones until they die. Deuteronomy 17, verse 5. Rather, what does the verse mean to teach when it stresses that they stone him? If he is a man, they stone just him without his clothes. But if the condemned party is a woman, they stone her with her clothing. Rabbi Yehuda says the emphasis on the word him teaches that they stone him alone, without his clothes. But, as is the case with all other punishments stated in the Torah, there is no difference for a man and no difference for a woman, meaning the same halacha applies to both men and women. The Gemara asks, is this to say that the rabbis are concerned that the sight of a naked woman will arouse sexual thoughts among the onlookers? And Rabbi Yehuda is not concerned about such sexual thoughts? But didn't we hear them say just the opposite? As we learned in the Mishnah, in Sota 7a. Ditnan, HaKohen ochez bi begadeha, im nikra'u nikra'u, v'im nifremu nifremu, ad shemigalet liba v'soteret zara. Rabbi Yehuda omer, im haya liba, na'e v'lo haya migalehu, With regard to a sota, a woman is suspected of adultery by her husband, and who is made to undergo the ordeal of the bitter waters, and the priest grabs a hold of her clothing and pulls it without concern about what happens to it. If the clothes are torn, they are torn. If the stitches come apart, they come apart. And he pulls her clothing until he reveals her heart, meaning a euphemism for her chest. And when he unbraids her hair, Rabbi Yehuda says, if her heart was attractive, if she had a nice chest, he would not reveal it. And if her hair was attractive, he would not unbraid it. This seems to indicate that it is Rabbi Yehuda who is concerned with the sexual thoughts of the onlookers. Amar Rabba, Hasam Hainu Taima Shema Teitsim Beis Din Zakav Yizgarba Pirchei Kahuna Hacha Hamikatla Chitema Sidis Gore Bachrina Isa Amar Rabba Gemiri Ein Yitzer Hara Shulat Ela B'mi She'en Avraos. Rabba said there, in the case of a sota, this is the reason that Rabbi Yehuda says that the priest does not reveal the woman's chest or unbraid her hair. Perhaps the sota will leave the court having been proven innocent, and the young priest in the temple who saw her partially naked will become provoked by the sight of her. Here, in the case of a woman who is stoned, she is killed by being stoned, and there is no concern about the onlookers becoming provoked after her death. The Gemara comments, and if you would say that the fact that she is killed is irrelevant to their having sexual thoughts because the onlookers will be provoked with regard to other women, this is not a concern, as Rabbah says. It is learned as a tradition that the evil inclination controls only that which one's eyes see. Amar Rava, Rabbi Yehuda Kashya, Rabbanan lo Kashya. Amar Rava, Rabbi Yehuda Kashya Kedeshinan. Rava says, is the contradiction between one statement of Rabbi Yehuda and the other statement of Rabbi Yehuda difficult, while the contradiction between one statement of the rabbis and the other statement of the rabbis is not difficult? There is also an apparent contradiction between the two rulings of the rabbis. As with regard to the sota, they are not concerned about sexual thoughts, but with regard to a woman who is stoned, they are concerned. Rather, Rava says the contradiction between one statement of Rabbi Yehuda and the other statement of Rabbi Yehuda is not difficult, as we answered above. Amar Kra, Pirvas Rukha Nashim, Velos Yasena, Ki Zmas Chana, Hacha Ein Lecha Yasur Gadol Bizeh. Rava continues, the contradiction between one ruling of the rabbis and the other ruling of the rabbis is not difficult either. With regard to a sota, the verse states that other women should be warned. Thus, I will cause lewdness to cease out of the land, that all women may be chastened not to do like your lewdness. Ezekiel 23:48, in order to serve as an example and warning to other women. A woman suspected of adultery must undergo public disgrace, and therefore the concern about the sexual thoughts that her partially naked body might arouse is disregarded. Here, with regard to stoning, you have no chastening greater than seeing this stoning itself. V'chitim levad batarti. Amar Rav Nachman Amar Avu. Amar Krabi Havtarech Kamoicha Beror Lo Misa Yafe. And if you would say that two forms of chastening, both stoning and humiliation, should be done to her, Rav Nachman says that Rabbi Avu says, the verse states, "You shall love your neighbor as yourself," Leviticus 19:18, teaching that even with regard to a condemned prisoner, select a good, meaning a compassionate death for him or her. Therefore, when putting a woman to death by stoning, she should not be humiliated in the process. Lema did Rav Nachman Tanaihi La. Dechuli alma it lehu did Rav Nachman Hacha Behaka Mifligi. Mar Savar Bizioni di Inish Adif Leitve Minach Digufe. Umar Savar Niach Digufe Adif Me Bizione. The Gemara suggests, let us say, that whether one rules in accordance with the statement of Nachman is a dispute between Tanaim, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, there is no mitzvah to select a compassionate death. The Gemara refutes this. No, it may be that everyone agrees with the opinion of Rav Nachman, and here they disagree about this. One sage, the rabbis, they hold that minimizing one's degradation is better for him than seeing to his physical comfort, than minimizing his physical pain. Therefore, the rabbis view the more compassionate death as one without degradation. Even if wearing clothing will increase the pain of the one being executed, as the clothes will absorb the blow and prolong his death. And one sage, Rabbi Yehuda, holds that one's physical comfort is better for him than minimizing his degradation, and therefore the one being executed prefers to be stoned unclothed without any chance of the clothing prolonging his death, even though this increases his degradation. Yee, what a grim topic. Okay, there's a new Mishnah going. New Mishnah. Beis Haskila haya gavoa shte mekomot. Shne komot echad min ha'edim dachvo al masnav nepach al libo, uvcho al masnav imeis ba yatza. The place of stoning from which the condemned man is pushed to his death is a platform twice the height of an ordinary person. He is made to stand at the edge of the platform, and then one of the witnesses who testified against him pushes him down by the hips so that he falls face up onto the ground. If he turned over onto his chest with his face downward, the witness turns him over onto his hips. And if he dies through this fall to the ground, the obligation to stone the transgressor is fulfilled. V'im lav hashini notel et ha'even v'notno al libo im met ba yatza v'im lav regima to b'chol Yisrael shneimar yad ha'edim tiyeh bo berishona v'hamito v'yad kol ha'am v'achrona. And if the condemned man does not die from this fall, the second witness takes the stone that has been prepared for this task and places, meaning casts it on his chest. And if he dies with the casting of this first stone, the obligation to stone the transgressor is fulfilled. And if he does not die with the casting of the stone, then his stoning is completed by all the Jewish people, meaning by all the people who assembled for the execution. As it is stated, the hand of the witnesses shall be first upon him, put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. Deuteronomy 17, verse 7. Gemara, the Talmud says, Tana, V'koma shelo harekan shalosh mivanin kolehai uraminu ma borshehu kedei lehamis esavat tvachim avkol kedei lehamis esavat tvachim. A Tanatana Braita, adding together the height of the platform, which is twice the height of an ordinary person, and the condemned man's own height, it turns out that there's a height here 3 times the height of an ordinary person. The Gemara asks, do we really need all that height to kill him? The Gemara raises a contradiction to the Braita from what was taught in the Mishnah, Bavakama 50b, when discussing the halachot of damage caused by a pit. Why does the Torah specify a pit when one is liable for the damage caused by any type of excavation? that he digs into the ground. This teaches that just as a pit that is of sufficient depth to cause one's death from falling into it is at least 10 handbreadths deep, so too any excavations that are of sufficient depth to cause one's death may be no less than 10 handbreadths. If a fall of 10 handbreadths is sufficient to kill a person, why must the platform from which the condemned man is pushed be twice the height of an ordinary person? Amr Nachman Amr Rabba Baravu Amr Krav Yafler Yachgamocha Beror Lo Misa Yafe Ihachi Ligbat Fe Meshum Demina Ved. If Nachman says that Rabbi Baravu says, the verse states, "You shall love your neighbor yourself," Leviticus 19:18, teaching that even with regard to a condemned man, look to good, meaning a compassionate death for him. Therefore, even though the one being executed is likely to die from a fall from a lesser height, a platform is built that is twice the height of an ordinary person in order to ensure a quick and relatively painless death. The Gemara challenges. If so, they should raise the platform even higher. The Gemara answers that is not done because if the condemned man were pushed from a higher platform, he would become seriously disfigured, and this would no longer be considered a compassionate form of death. Echad min ha'edim dochafo tanu Rabbanan menayin shebadichaya tamad lomar yaro menayin shebeskila tamad lomar sakol. The Mishnah teaches that one of the witnesses who had testified against the condemned party pushes him off the platform. Concerning this halakha, the sages taught in a Braita, from where is it derived that the punishment of stoning can be fulfilled by pushing the condemned party from a high place so that he dies from his fall. The verse states with regard to those who cross the boundaries that were set up around Mount Sinai and touch the mountain, "Take heed to yourselves that you not go up into the mountain or touch the border of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall be put to death. No hand shall touch him, but he shall be stoned or shall be thrown down." Exodus 19:12-13. And from where is it derived that this punishment can be fulfilled with actual stoning? The verse states, "He shall be stoned." We know O yaro yarea. Uminayin she'im meis bedechia. Yatsa tamalomar o yaro yara. Yare. Yare. Minayin she'af ledoros kan. And from where is it derived that the punishment is sometimes fulfilled both by stoning and by pushing? Meaning, if the transgressor did not die from the fall, then is he stoned? The verse states, "He shall be stoned or shall be thrown down." And from where is it derived that if the condemned man died from the pushing, the obligation to stone him has been fulfilled, and there is no further need to actually stone him? The verse states, "or shall be thrown down," with the term "or" indicating that only one of the two options must be fulfilled. And from where is it derived that this halakha is not only at Mount Sinai, but even with regard to future generations?